Yeah, we can follow your guideline there, or just an open forum of questions. I do have a couple topics that I want to make sure we talk about, but somewhere in our time we can talk about that. That's not a big deal.
I'm just pulling it up. Okay, so I said like precautionary, what kind of information is valuable for you to know about the situation and the home?
No, I think it's okay.
So, what, and she just informed me that it's a multi-state viewing audience, so I'm pretty sure most 911 dispatch centers operate pretty close to the same, or fire departments operate pretty close to the same. About your street address. Number one, to make sure your address is visible from the street. If your house isn't visible from the street, don't just put it on the mailbox, because the mailbox could be just down from your house or across the street from your house or something. Put a address number out at the end of the road. And if you actually do need to call 911 and need help, maybe you could have somebody stand at the end of the road to flag people down too. That's not always the case, or not always available, but, and then, you can contact your fire department ahead of time and give them a heads up, like, hey, we have somebody here that needs a little extra special care. Or they call that a point of rescue, where they inform us that, hey, somebody can't rescue themselves out of the house. They can't get out by themselves. So that's a heads up to the fire department to prepare for that and have extra people, or, whatever we need to do to get that person out. And then they can actually flag. What we can do here in Eau Claire is, if we have that information, we can put that in our computer-aided dispatch center, or computer-aided dispatch system in the computer system. So if there would be a call at that address, when they type in your address, it'll show a special note, hey, somebody's in a wheelchair here, or somebody needs special rescue situations, or that kind of thing. And then also, I see on the list here the location of a spare key. If you have a spare key location or a special code to get in the house, that can be in there too, like where the key location is. Or they can give the code over the radio air. And yes, I know people in Scannerland can hear that, but then you can change it. We're actually lucky in the city of Eau Claire, in a metro area, that most everybody has a computer in the ambulances. So if the dispatcher types in where the key location is, they can read it on their screen, and it's kept secret. It doesn't go out over the radio. But even if it does, you can move it, that's fine. Or that special code to get in the garage or get in the house or have access to something. So, I see here it says what kind of, or I guess I should stop and, sure, or, Bob, you got any else to add to that, you think?
Yeah, I was just going to add on to that. One of the problems that we run into is being able to locate people's homes as fast as possible. And when Jason was saying, make sure that you have your address on your home, make sure it's also visible at night. It never hurts to have your address on your mailbox and your home, in at least two locations. But if it is on your home and your home is visible from the street, make sure that we can see it. If your home is located off the street a ways and is blocked by trees, get your address out on the side of the road where we can see it also. That'll help us locate your home a lot faster. And don't be afraid of putting bigger numbers out there so everybody can see it from the street too. A lot of people, when they put their address out there, it's kind of tiny font, and when you're driving down the road at a high rate of speed to get to a location in a timely manner, we don't always see that smaller font numbers on your home. So make sure that it's big enough that you can see it from the road, and that at night we can also see it. So that's just what I'm going to tag onto that as far as responding to them locations.
And we also really like reflective numbers, if that's possible. You know, sometimes it's not always, but
Perfect. Anybody have any comments or questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
Okay. And so could I give them the code to my garage like now? And they would just have that on the record?
yes, most places would. I know
Okay.
we would here in Eau Claire, and I'm pretty sure most fire departments would keep a record of that somewhere.
Okay. We have a volunteer fire department. I'm in Ham Lake. And so it's
Okay.
volunteer. So I'll
So-
check with them.
Yeah, check with them, and they might have to check with their dispatch center, with their 911 center, to see if they would be able to do that. I'm pretty sure they
Okay.
would.
Sure.
Just
Good
double
idea.
check.
Yeah, I
thank
know
you.
a lot of the rural departments now are going to a format that's called I am responding. And what they can literally get is that dispatch information right on their phone, which will give them critical information like where to locate a key, um, if doors are more accessible than others. So definitely check with your fire department, and they can get you in contact with whoever their dispatch service may be. They may do it internally too, but they still have the ability in some instances to be able to use that I am responding app for their volunteer firefighters to be able to get to your location and find the key to get access inside of your home.
Thank you.
Along with other information that they might want to have ahead of time, what about like a BiPAP or any like wheelchair device, communication device that people might be utilizing? Is that good information to have ahead of time?
Yes, absolutely. Yep, the more information ahead of time, the better, so that we don't find out, you know, last minute. That's always very helpful, so we can prepare ahead of time.
Yeah, and I would definitely recommend if you're using a communication device to work with your SLP on some emergency type messages with your name, date of birth, address, etc., just to have them programmed.
Yep.
Any thoughts or questions on that? Okay. What's next? Oh, can the department come out and help create an evacuation plan? Or I'm thinking more, since we've had a lot of severe weather recently, if they can't get to a basement, what would some safer alternatives be, like on the main level?
Well, if they can't get below grade, and can't get in the basement, the National Weather Service advises to go to an interior room without windows. And the smaller the room, the better, or the stronger the walls, like a bathroom, for example, or a laundry room, somewhere where there's no windows, so you can't have glass flying around to cut you. And they say an interior room, which would be in the middle, or hopefully in the middle of the house or the structure. So if there would be a collapse or a partial collapse, hopefully you would be in the part that isn't collapsed. Plus, it's actually easier for us to make a rescue from the interior of the room, like, or the interior of the house like that. Plus, the walls are a bit more stronger with the extra pipes and stuff going through. That's why they suggest a bathroom. And then maybe you could crawl into the tub and put something over top of you for padding to protect you from flying debris and stuff too. Sometimes that's not always possible either, but at least get away from the windows for sure, because windows can break very easily, and that glass is very dangerous.
Yeah, bathrooms are good because, like Jason was saying, you generally have a small window in your bathroom, so the likelihood of that breaking is going to be less than if you were in your bedroom or living room. The sheetrock that's inside bathrooms too is a little bit more durable because it's designed to take moisture and wick that away so it doesn't rot over time. So it's a little bit more substantial, built in areas that are designed to hold moisture. The idea is to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. So another kind of last resort type thing, if you can't get into a bathroom, is an interior closet wall too, where you're putting more walls between you and the exterior. So if it's not possible for you to get into a bathroom, then maybe consider a closet area where it's a little bit smaller. You've got a little bit more walls between you and the exterior, and it's going to provide you a little bit more protection.
Oops, I was muted. That's really good advice. That was a big topic at our multidisciplinary clinic recently with the severe weather. Wisconsin's been kind of hit with tornadoes. So,
And they'll also say, don't be in a vehicle. And a vehicle is very, very bad to be in with any sort of severe weather, because that can be tossed around like a Hot Wheel car, especially in those high winds and stuff, and that's very bad.
kind of going on this severe weather stuff, if power outages occur, and people are utilizing BiPAPs or any other breathing devices, what are your recommendations for that as far as being proactive?
I think most of those devices have some sort of battery backup, at least for a short time, right? If I'm thinking correctly.
Yeah, some of them do. The other option is a lot of these are designed to be powered by oxygen bottles themselves. So, depending on what you're using, if you're using it just basically as a like a lot of people will have like nasal cannula O2 that's just going into their nose. That's only about 2 liters a minute. It's low flow oxygen. And if you're using an oxygen generator, a lot of them have a little oxygen bottle in the back that if the power does go out on that you can bypass and just use the oxygen bottle itself at that low flow rate. Same thing with some of your CPAP devices. If you're using them at night to for sleeping purposes, obviously you're going to have to probably come up with a different method to power that. But if you need it for emergency purposes, you can actually bypass that just using a regular oxygen bottle too. I don't know if some of your suppliers that might be, supplying oxygen for some people have that ability or not. Typically, and I've ran into this in the past when I used to be on an ambulance where we've had power outages and we've been called to assisted living facilities with a whole line of residents there who were going to need transport to a hospital because the power was out, and it was just a little bit of education to show that, well, they have a oxygen bottle that should last several hours, but if for whatever reason they started running out, we should be able to supply additional oxygen bottles or find a supplier who can supply additional oxygen bottles until power is restored. So there's ways around that are kind of redundant systems. Those are designed that way. But if you are concerned about it and you find that you are going to be running out of oxygen, don't hesitate to call and get emergency services over to assist you, because we can do that.
Yeah, I know we always recommend, the best would be a generator, right? And then also, I know someone else recommended calling your utility company and letting them know that you're utilizing a BiPAP of sorts. Sometimes they can prioritize you when they're bringing the power back on.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, the utility company is probably not going to be your best option, because if we have a major storm or something that comes through, they're going to be prioritizing their main lines first, because those are the ones that are feeding everything else. And if those are damaged, that's when you run into the problems where you can be out of power for at least 3 days is what they tell you to plan for. But in the meantime, we do have the abilities to be able to get oxygen to the people that need it. Obviously, having a generator installed in your home is a good idea, or not into your home, but supplying your home is a good idea. But it's also very expensive. So you got to kind of think outside of the box of how you can do it. And one of the ways that you can do that is by looking at additional battery backup systems, or even an inverter system that you can plug into your automobile if needed. A lot of newer cars today, especially with your EV vehicles, have the ability to power stuff that's outside of just the vehicle itself, and that might be an option too. So a lot of it just takes a little bit of a creative thinking, if you will, in an emergency situation, how you're going to help power um, emergency type stuff that is needed for people that are in the home still. But obviously, if needed, that's when you're going to get a hold of emergency services, and we'll be there to kind of help get things working for you in the home. If not, we'll get you to a place of safe refuge, so you're at least taken care of at the immediate time of the emergency.
So
And
can I interject with that, please?
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
I did call Wisconsin Electric We Energy and asked them about that, because somebody I met who had Parkinson's told me that you could call the electrical company and get prioritized. So when I called the electrical company, they said, no, that's really not true. They don't prioritize people according to any medical equipment. So Randy's on a BiPAP. It has a 6-hour backup battery built into it. And then we also, in addition, from the medical equipment company, got an 8-hour separate backup battery that he could plug into on top of that 6 hours. And then on top of that, we did get the car jack for the BiPAP. So if we were in the car and there was an issue, we could plug into the car and run the BiPAP. But having said all that, we installed the generator because we just wanted to be sure we could use everything we needed, because he has cough machine and suction machine and other things. So that was the route we went. But we have everything for traveling and just as a precaution.
Yep, and that's good proper planning there. You can never not have enough redundant plans for in the event of an emergency, and that's kind of what I was alluding to with the electric companies. Just even for our use, when we have a major incident going on, a fire or something like that, where we need power immediately shut off to buildings, typically it can be hours before they show up to shut the power down. So don't rely on your electric company to be there just because of some medical concern, because there's a lot of people out there who are all kind of think that they're a priority too, and they're only going to prioritize what their system is going to prioritize, being a private company. So when in doubt, get a hold of emergency services, and we can get there and help you out as fast as we can, a lot faster than what your electric companies are going to be able to do.
Really good information. Glad we myth busted that.
And, we have just about every fire truck has some sort of power supply. If it's not a generator, it's something internal. And ambulances too, where they have inverters to plug in, they got normal electrical plugins, just like you do in your house outlets. Because we have equipment we have to plug in too. So we can always, once the ambulance gets there, you can always plug that kind of stuff into an ambulance to keep it running temporarily until we figure out, where to go and what to do and all that kind of stuff. I think
Go ahead, Linda.
Linda? Yeah.
I have upper limb onset of ALS. And so like I can breathe in, but I can't breathe out. So I'm on the cough assist 4 times a day and the BiPAP at night to sleep. So it'll push the air out. They told me, don't ever have oxygen. They're saying oxygen is really bad. It could kill someone with ALS. So have you
Yep.
heard that?
So in emergency situations, we can use oxygen. We'd be able to monitor what your respiratory drive and stuff is doing. I don't know if you have advanced life support service in your area, but our department is advanced life support. So we have the ability to monitor airways, respiratory drive, end tidal CO2, everything that's going on, so we can manage that, plus the medications we can give to kind of offset any type of CO2 buildup in the system from lack of being able to expire any oxygen and CO2. So I understand your concern, but that's more for the layperson who thinks that they can just live off the oxygen for an extended amount of time, not realizing that the metabolic issues that are going on are building up. Where we in our service, we have the ability to recognize that and treat that on scene.
I know I had been told to actually call the fire department tell them not to ever give me oxygen.
Yep.
I'll check into that.
Linda, do you have the resource guide for that? I can put it in the chat. It speaks directly to the oxygen and the CO2 levels.
Thank you. Yeah, if you could, that'd be great. Thank you.
Anyone else thoughts on that?
And, like just going on what Bob was saying is that, if a first responder or a family member should not give you oxygen, but like what he was saying, with advanced level care, we have the ability to monitor what's going on in your body and prevent something from happening, or give you some medication to counteract whatever's going on. And it's just like being at the doctor's office, essentially. The ER is in the ambulance and it's in your driveway. So we can do that kind of stuff, but nobody should just come with an oxygen bottle and just, give it to you.
Right. And I've got several places in my home and in my billfold saying what I have and what, I've signed up for. Like, I don't want to be given multiple. I don't want the end of life measures to keep me alive. So I've got all that.
Sure.
PTOS, whatever that. Okay.
Yeah, advanced orders are important to have readily available. What sometimes occurs when we arrive on scene and somebody's having some end of life type issues going on, it helps kind of guide the family to what your wishes are, but it really gives us the legal ability to honor your wishes. If we don't have that, and we have family member that's saying that they kind of want to extend those life-saving measures, it makes it very difficult for our paramedics to it puts us in a bad spot, because we don't know what your wishes are unless it's expressly written on a legal document to be able to honor them. And sometimes a family member will override that, and it kind of, it's a sticky situation. I've been in it several times, and it's not one that it feels good, because we want to make sure that as the patient, we want to honor the patient's wishes in any of those type of events. So the more you have that accessibility and it's readily available to be found by us, a lot of people still use the vial of life and they put that in their freezer. We look for stuff like that, or more importantly, making sure that you have a bracelet on that identifies. In the state of Wisconsin, that's really the only legal way that we can identify, is by having the bracelet with your advanced directive order on it, saying what your wishes are going to be.
Anyone have any other questions? File of life. I can put that link in the chat too. Does everyone have one? I know we hand them out at our clinics in Madison.
The bracelet? Are you saying? I have not seen that or heard of that.
The bracelet or the file of life?
The bracelet. I had not heard of that. That's a good idea.
Yeah, in the state of Wisconsin, if somebody has a do not resuscitate order, the state actually made it law that the only way to make sure that that is legal is to wear a bracelet or at least have the paperwork signed there by a medical doctor. Because we're directed that if we don't see that paper or we don't see the bracelet, we are legally obligated to do life-saving procedures. So
Right.
at least in Wisconsin, and I'm sure every state has their own law or has something a little bit different. So you should check with your own state law with the DNR orders. They call them DNR, do not resuscitate, or end of life plan. I've heard it that way too. That if you don't want any life-saving procedures or I only want this, but not that kind of thing, you can piecemeal that too. So check into that too and make sure it's all legally set up before we get there. Because I personally, and I know Bob has and Shua has too, in situations where somebody comes up, a family member says, well, they have a do not resuscitate order. Okay, well, where is it? Well, I don't know. I'll have to dig for it. Well, they take 5 minutes and, and we're obligated to start the procedures and we do. And it's not a good situation for the family or for us, or the other way around. Like, I want you to do life-saving procedures on my mom, but she's wearing a bracelet. I legally can't because that's her wishes. So, and make sure you have those discussions with your family too, so you're not fighting with each other there.
Yeah, especially in an emergency situation, tensions are high. It's a really hard
Yep.
thing to express.
But make sure you check with your own state. If you're not in Wisconsin, make sure you check to see what your own state has for rules set up.
Did you use the term file of life? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, let me show you.
We
I
call it a vial of life, VILE, vial. I think that's vial.
Oh, we have these that we
Yep,
can
and vial of life. Yep.
Same
Yep.
thing, same thing, different name.
Okay. And
So-
where's kept?
Where is it kept? This is a magnet, so it can go on your refrigerator, freezer, right on the outside, so everybody can see it.
Yep, the old ones that were called vial life, they actually had all your medical documentation inside of a medicine vial, and then people would just put that right in their freezer. And old guys like me knew exactly where to look because we'd open it up and we'd find that vial of life right inside the freezer door, and we knew that it was there. But the file of life, we're seeing that a lot too, right on the door of the refrigerator, which is a great place for it because we literally do teach that to look for that at the refrigerator because it's a magnet, or look inside the refrigerator door or freezer door for the vial of life also. So yeah, good example. Thank you.
I
Thank
put
you.
Yeah, I put the link in the chat, so if you want to pull that up, otherwise we can get you one.
Yep. Got it.
Perfect. Anything else on advanced directives? We're squared away on that. Those are just good discussions, ongoing discussions to have with your family members, just to make sure you're all on the same page. Like I said, in emergency situations, those are really hard decisions to make. The other thing I wanted to kind of touch on were probably the most common calls for service, and that's falls, standard lift assists. Do you have any guidance or advice on those? I know at some point there could be a charge. Any kind of advice on that?
Yeah, falls is one of the most common calls that we go on with any sort of patient. The biggest thing is to get all the tripping hazards away. Don't have rugs, don't have loose carpeting, stuff in the way. don't keep newspapers and things close to you. I know you want to have everything within arm's reach a lot of times, but don't have clutter or boxes or that kind of stuff, because you can, just a simple trip to get up and go to the bathroom can turn into a big deal because you trip and fall and now something happens. So, and some municipalities will charge for, if you fall and you're not injured, to just put you back in the chair. We don't, but then it comes to a point of, well, how many times have we been here? How many times, how can we prevent this? Does that person just need to move and get rid of their rugs? Or do they need to have some sort of more advanced type of care? Like they can't live at home anymore, kind of thing. So, and we try to work that balance out, but some municipalities do charge for that. Here in Eau Claire, we don't, but then at some point, with repeat problems like that, we have to come to some sort of resolution to figure out, how can we not keep coming back?
So typically, for us, we look at how many times a person has fallen in their home, and what we can do is we'll refer them to like the ADRC for additional education on trip and fall prevention in the home. Like Jason was saying, a lot of it is preventable just by eliminating stuff that's going to cause trips in the home, and one of those is rugs. I think rugs is probably the number one culprit that causes falls in the home, especially in the bathroom. A lot of people have a bathroom rug in there. And we run into a lot of issues where people have fallen in the bathroom because they've tripped over their rug. Another thing that we were kind of unaware of until last year here is that nursing homes have been charging patients for the fire department to come and help them off the floor too. A lot of nursing homes, I don't know if people are aware, but will not pick people up, and not just nursing home, but assisted living facilities too. Will call the fire department to come pick people up off the floor because they view it as a liability issue that's outside of their scope. But then they've been turning around and charging the resident or the patient that's inside of a assisted living or nursing home. And they're working on legislation right now in the state of Wisconsin to prohibit that. So just keep that in mind. And if you have a loved one that's in an assisted living facility or is in a nursing home, maybe question them if they are charging your loved one or you for that call, if they call a fire department there. Because like here in the city of Eau Claire, we don't bill for a fall that's inside of the home, and we don't bill a nursing home or the assisted living facility. But that's not to say that they're not billing the person who's living there for that call. It's kind of a shady practice, and that's why the state's looking at legislation to prevent that from happening. The other thing too is, and you've maybe seen this in the news, is a lot of these assisted living and skilled nursing facilities will not do CPR on their clients or their patients that are in there either. So if you're considering going in there, get clarification before you make a commitment to put somebody into one of these places, to make sure that they're going to do what they're certified to do. And if they're not certified to do it, maybe consider not going to that place or allowing your loved one to go there either. Those are tough conversations sometimes to have because you want to keep your loved one close to home, and sometimes it's just not feasible, and then you're kind of putting a rock in a hard spot with their policies that they have in place. So hopefully the state can step in and put a pause or prevention to some of the practices that they've been doing out there that have not been in the best interest of the people that are in these places. So, and I'm thinking we should probably know more on that legislation here in the next couple of months. And it may have already just passed, I'm not aware of it. I just know that I believe one of the senators in the state was working on that legislation. I believe it was sponsored by Jesse James, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, you're right, Bob. But look around your house right now, and I'll bet you somebody has got something in the way of their bedroom or their bathroom or their kitchen. My mom used to have all kinds of stuff in the way. It should be, your hallway should be exactly how wide it is. Don't put a table or some decoration or, a stack of papers, stack of boxes, or, whatever. Keep those pathways clear so that you don't trip. She walked with a walker. So a lot of times she would hook her walker on just stuff in the way, close furniture or things she had around. Shoes, that's a huge one, is shoes and rugs are probably the two biggest things that people trip on all the time. So just look around your house and make sure that you have a very wide, clear path to wherever you're going. And that's going to prevent most of your falls right there.
Perfect. And here's my plug for a fall detection device as well. Those are very,
Yes, absolutely.
do you guys have something set up for that? Okay, Linda's shaking her head. Great.
Take a watch.
Yeah, I know a lot of people do the Apple Watches, and they can call, your spouse or a family member first before it gets to 911. So good job, Linda.
It's amazing how far along technology's come now from the old life alert days, that depended on somebody being able to push the button on their own to now you got something on your body that'll detect that something's wrong and will make the call for you. So yeah, the more information that you can get out that you're in trouble, then the faster you can do it, the better your outcome is going to be.
Definitely. What is the protocol, at least for you guys, if someone falls and hits their head? Do they need to go to the emergency room?
Well, that's a really good question. What we're going to do is we're going to first assess the patient, and that's going to be a complete head to toe assessment. And we're going to be checking on vital signs and mental acuity. Is the first thing we do is we survey the scene as we walk in, and the position that the person's in. If they're sitting up and they're down on their butt, against the wall, obviously they were able to get themselves into a situation where they probably didn't hit their head. We're going to ask them a series of questions, making sure that they're alert to person, place, time, and events. And then we're going to check their head over very well, check their whole spinal column over very well to make sure that they're not having any pain. And then we're slowly going to try to get them to their feet if they're comfortable enough for that, or into a chair if they're comfortable for that. We're going to continue to assess that as we go. If the patient is saying that they're feeling fine and they're answering all of our questions appropriately and they seem like they're cognitive, we'll probably, advise them that they should still get checked out, but we're going to leave that up to the patient themselves. And if there's a family member there who's kind of affirming that, yes, everything seems normal, we're going to be comfortable with leaving them there. We'll have them sign a release form and tell them, hey, if you see any changes, anything develops, don't hesitate, call us, we'll come back and we'll reevaluate it at the least, or we'll transport them in. If we do see something that's going to give us a little bit more indication of some type of head trauma, whether they start to develop a goose egg on their head, we see signs of maybe blood or a little more difficulty with the mental acuity, we're going to question that a lot harder. Some people maybe just scrape their head on the way down versus bumping it. That doesn't mean they have a true head trauma. It just means they scraped their head when they fell. But you couple that with somebody who is having a hard time recalling the events that happened or anything else like that, we're going to err on the side of caution and we're going to transport the patient. Where we get into a little bit of a sticky situation is if they're their own person, they can still make those, they can still deny that transport. And if they're denying that transport and we have a high suspect that they have a head bleed or something going on due to a fall, we just can't force them to go, which is going to create a little bit more of a traumatic incident for the patient, because we're going to have to get law enforcement involved to come and basically put this person into a medical chapter so we can take them to the hospital for evaluation. Where we kind of get into another issue is when the patient is answering all of our questions appropriately, isn't showing any signs of head trauma, but the loved one is like, no, you need to take them to the hospital. We kind of get then into this argument between a husband and wife per se, that's saying, nope, he's going to the hospital and there's nothing, you can't tell me that he can't go. And then the husband's saying, nope, I don't want to go to the hospital. I feel fine. Just leave me alone. If the husband's answering all questions appropriately, we can't force him to go as much as the wife wants us to take him, or vice versa. So
That doesn't
that's
happen,
why
does it?
Yeah.
we try to we're there for the patient. We're the patient advocate, but we also rely on the family member to give us the best information possible as to if they're behaving appropriately. And if we use our kind of deductive skills too to say, this seems like it's kind of common banter between husband and wife, everything seems kind of normal here, how about this? Are you capable of taking him to the hospital if he wants to go with you, or vice versa? Or how about you just keep an eye on him, and if anything changes, don't hesitate to call us back and we'll come back and reevaluate. So
And how is the billing with that as far as the transport?
what we in the city of Eau Claire, we don't bill for just on-site evaluations. It's kind of just built into our system. And if we do transport, we transport on the medical necessity, so it's covered under insurance or Medicare or Medicaid. So that's that's when it comes to being the report writer on scene, the paramedic, when they fill out their diagnostic and form through what we use for our reporting system through wards. Our billing company takes a look at that and looks at the medical necessity, and then they'll pass that on to either the insurance company for billing, or if it's a Medicare or Medicaid type thing, passes it on to them. It gets a little bit more sticky with Medicare and Medicaid because of the criteria. So, they're only going to cover things that are deemed emergent. Well, we can consider a head injury an emergent transport, but it goes into the documentation. If the wife's like, nope, you're taking them, and finally the husband's like, fine, just take me in, that might not be covered, because that's documented that the wife requested that the husband be transported in, but our diagnostics showed that, while he did fall, there was no indication of a potential head injury through our assessment. So kind of keep that in mind too. So
Yeah. Is that explained as like, when the wife is telling you he needs to be transported, is that part of the explanation? Like you could be responsible for this?
Yeah, we actually have paperwork that we'll have them sign saying, okay, we're not finding anything that's medically necessary under Medicare criteria. We're going to have you fill out this documentation just saying that you may be billed because of the criteria isn't met here. That's not saying that it's not being billed or won't be covered. It's just that it may not be. But a lot of people will confuse that with saying, well, you won't transport us then. And it's like, no, we're trying to educate you on that it might not be covered due to the medical necessity needs of a Medicare Medicaid patient. So it's another one of those things that we have to inform the patient of, and hopefully a lot of agencies out there are notifying their patients that you may incur a bill from this that's not covered if we do transport you on it. Not saying we're not going to transport you, but you might get a bill on that, just so you're aware of that. So, and then some people will say, well, nope, I don't want to go. And some people will say, yep, still take me anyways. So,
Yeah. As long as it's explained. That's all I care about.
Yeah, and we actually, and I don't have one of the forms here, but we carry an advanced beneficiary and Medicare, Medicaid, Medicare form, and we, before we transport anybody out who we has any questionable medical necessity, we have them fill it out, have them read it first, sign it, and then we carry on with the transport from there, just so they're aware of, you know, any financial obligations they may have after that if it's deemed not medically necessary. And sometimes we get 100% payback on that from the transport, and sometimes we get a partial, and sometimes the Medicare will just say, nope, we just find that it's not medically necessary. And then we'll get a phone call from the family saying, hey, this wasn't covered. And it's like, yeah, we have your form here and we informed you of that. Well, is there anything that you guys can do? Because we're in a financial hardship. Will we work with people as a department? You know, we'll sit there and say, okay, you know, are you able to cover this much? Or maybe we'll just write it off due to the financial hardship of some of the people. Knowing that, you know, that's still a burden of the taxpayer. So, and obviously, you know, we do our best to try to take care of everybody, but we also have to answer to our shareholders too. So,
Right. Anyone have any questions on that? Thoughts? Go ahead, Linda.
I have a doctor's appointment Zoom call at 4. I need to go now. Thank you very much though for everything. So I'm going to exit out, but thank you to the guys that really good. You guys are great.
Nice meeting you, Linda, and I hope you do well. And don't hesitate to call if you need us.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Yeah, if you got additional questions, you can always let Christy know and she can email us too.
Thank you so much. Okay,
All right.
bye.
Bye, Linda. Anyone else have any other thoughts? Concerns? All right. Well, that just means that we covered it very well, guys. Hey, girls.
I do have one topic that I want to bring up about lithium ion batteries and the charging of those kind of batteries. Whether it's your equipment that you're using or just rechargeable batteries for like clocks and electronic things around the house. I'm sure everybody's aware or scared of lithium ion batteries, which they're not a bad thing, but half of the reason why they fail and you get these dramatic fires or you get these dramatic explosions and stuff is because people don't use the proper charging cords or they don't use the proper charging voltage. So especially with your medical equipment like wheelchairs and pumps and different things, make sure you're using the charging cord that the manufacturer recommends. Use the charging cord that came with it. If some people they lose that cord or it breaks for whatever reason, so they go out to Walmart or somewhere and just buy a basic charging cord. That's not the way to do it because every battery is very finicky. It has to be charged with at a certain voltage for so long a time for it to gain charge. If not, it generates heat or generates resistance and generates heat, and that causes the fire, causes the batteries to fail. So make sure it is the proper charging cord, the proper charging cradle that came with those batteries, or at least that the manufacturer recommends. I've seen many fires where I've investigated fires where they'll buy little AA batteries and, you know, get them, you know, whatever brand batteries. And for whatever reason, the charging cradle or the charging cord that they use that came with it failed or got broke or got lost, whatever. So they just buy a generic one and charge their batteries. Well, the batteries don't like it and they generate that heat resistance and end up causing fires. I've seen, and I'm sure everybody's seen like on the news or on media, whatever, that like hoverboards and electric bicycles and electric vehicles and stuff start fires because of the lithium ion batteries. Well, half the problem is that it's how they're charged. They're charged too slow, they're charged too fast, or a higher voltage, whatever. So I can't stress enough, use what the manufacturer recommends and only that. If you have to buy a brand new charging cord from that manufacturer, then that's what you got to do. So don't just think, yeah, any old charger will work, because that's bad.
Really good information. I added that to my list of follow-up. Gay had a question here in the chat. She says, is there a list of what info to bring to the hospital? Medicine list, insurance, communication device.
Yes, those things for sure. Maybe information on your power of attorney as well, who can make medical decisions for you if you become not able to do that yourself. Or any sort of living wills that you might have as well. That's something that I could think of. That's what I had to deal with my mother.
A lot of those advanced directives should be on file.
Should
at your-
be.
Yeah, but it's good to have it front and center. Also, backup communication device, low tech. I'm sure Kate's all over that with you.
You know, and sometimes just a pen and pad of paper, you know, sometimes that works.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I had a phone call come in. I don't know if Jason spoke to it or not, but a lot of families, they will actually have a basically like a go bag for when they go to the hospital. That's got extra set of clothes in it, copy of their medications, and copies of their insurance information. Um, you know, aside from just what we're looking for is a medication list and which hospital you want to go to. And the reason we want that medication list is because if we need to give you any medications, we want to know if you're going to have any adverse reactions to anything that we may need to give you, or if you're allergic to any medications that we may need to give you. So the ambulance is pretty basic as to what we're going to want you to bring, because sometimes less is better for the ambulance crew, but we want to make sure that you have everything for an extended stay if needed. So shoes, extra set of clothes, your medication list, any medications that you're going to need to take, because they're going to want to know at the hospital too exactly what you're taking also. So a lot of people prepare with an additional little bag that they're going to bring if they need to take it to the hospital with them.
I'm taking notes in the chat. Good question, Gay. Any other thoughts? I know we're approaching 4 o'clock.
Is it one of the topics that was on the agenda that we didn't go over is the smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detector or carbon CO detectors? And I just wanted to clarify, it says Red Cross program. With the Red Cross program, we can only get smoke detectors from them. We used to help out with getting CO detectors from the health department. That's just dependent on how, and if they have any to give to us. If they have any, great. If not, we go without the year without giving any away. But that smoke detector install program is free to people at no cost. And so if your detectors are over 10 years old, we would want to get those switched out. If you are if you are living without smoke detectors, that's definitely something that we would want to know. And so depending on which agency is close to you, I know with the city of Eau Claire, if you're a homeowner, we'll come into your house, and that's when we can help evaluate too. Like at the beginning of the meeting here, we talked about like evacuation drills, where to go in the event of emergency. That's when we can take the time to talk with you guys about any hazards or any safety issues that you want to go over with us. And then we also do your install. So really that smoke detector install program really helps us out because that allows us to get into your house and kind of really help you guys out too. So take advantage of the smoke detector install program. So yeah.
And that's a Red Cross program, so is that offered across the country?
Yep, so they upped it up this year where homeowners can get up to 4 free smoke detectors. And if your fire department doesn't do the install like we do, contact your local Red Cross office, and they'll have a representative come out and help you guys install it into your homes. But for the most part, they get a lot of assistance from area fire departments, so really utilize that service.
Super. That's
I'm gonna ask Shua and Jason this too, because if I'm not mistaken, they also have a bed shaker program for the hard of hearing too, do they not?
Yep.
Yes, yep. It's like a little hockey puck device that goes under your pillow or under your mattress. And it vibrates, and it actually vibrates pretty hard, harder than I thought it would. It'll certainly wake you up, but that relies on the sound of another smoke detector, a close one. So it'll go off whenever another smoke detector goes off. It'll vibrate your bed, and it's kind of a cool little gizmo. You can use it as a nightstand clock, alarm clock too. But if it hears that beep of the smoke detector, then it vibrates under your pillow. And we've given away a few of them now to hearing impaired kids or people. So they're pretty decent.
Mhm. And with those, you also get a strobe too, so that way,
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
strobe light
so
too.
that way
Flash.
it has that really bright light to wake you up. So, if you're hard of hearing, or if you have somebody, a neighbor that is hard of hearing that you know needs that, the Red Cross has those too. We just need to know about it so that we can get it to you guys.
They don't have those in stock. They just have to special order them whenever it comes in. So yeah, that it's a great setup.
And if you're in a nursing home or if you're renting and whoever owns that facility is not keeping up with their smoke detector installs, let us know. We'll go in. We'll make sure that they get smoke detectors put in. So
Shua is my enforcer.
I love it. Anything else? I think we're good. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate the time to join us here today and go through the gamut of stuff.
Bet.
We covered a lot in a short amount of time. So thank you very much.
If anything else pops up or any other questions, don't be afraid to email or give us a call, whatever.
Perfect. Thank you guys.
All
We'll
right.
see
Have a good
you
day.
next month.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
for having us.
You bet. Bye-bye.